Thank you for joining. In this video, you're going to be learning how to factorize the following expressions, right? So let's get into it. So 1.1.1, 4x minus x cubed. So you are required to factorize this. So the first thing to do here is to identify the common factor. So the common factor in this expression is x. So if you factor out x, so 4x divided by x is 4, and negative x cubed divided by x is x squared. Right, so this is how you factor out the common factor. And then from here you have 4. You can actually express it as 2 power 2. So 4 can be expressed as 2 squared, and then you're gonna have x squared can be written as x squared. And what you need to identify here or notice is a squared minus b squared can be written as a minus b, a plus b. So that's what you're going to be doing here. So you have 2 squared minus x squared. So 2 squared minus x squared can be written as 2 minus x and 2 plus x. Okay, and then so that's essentially your final answer. You can write it this way: x 2 minus x 2 plus x. That doesn't matter, just remember those brackets, doesn't matter. But essentially that's your final answer, and you'll get marks from getting this correct answer and also doing this. Boom. So that's your answer, two marks. So let's go to 1.1.2. So 1.1.2, so they're asking you the same thing, 1.1.2. So here they're asking you to still also factorize this expression. Remember, this is a quadratic expression where you have ax squared plus bx plus c. So in this case, your a is 1, your b is 15, your c is negative 54. So now to factorize this, there's multiple ways of doing this, but I'm going to just showing you another way of doing it, not using your calculator, just using a methodology. So this methodology is it's quite simple. Essentially, what you need to do is first you need to find the factors of c. That's the first thing, the factors of c. So factors of c in this case is negative 54. So the factors of negative 54, it can be 1, right? It can be 2, right? It can be 3, can be 6, can be 9, can be 18, because 18 times 3 is 54. It can be 27, because 27 times 2 is 54, right? So those are the factors of 54. And then when you have identified this in the first thing, identify the factors of c, in this case negative 54, and then from here then you can have to choose two numbers. So you have number 1 and number 2. So if you multiply these two numbers, they should give you a times c, which is a. This is our a, this is our c. In this case, 1 times negative 54 is negative 54. And then if you add these two numbers, they should give you b, right? In this case, which is 15. So that's the second thing to do. Identify these two numbers. That if you add them, you should get negative 54. If you multiply them, you should get negative 54. If you add them, you should get 15. So those two numbers are, if you look at this factors of 54, you see that if you add minus 3 plus 18, or 18 minus 3, that's actually 15, and then negative 3 times 18, that is 54. So if you add these two numbers, you get 15, and if you multiply them, you get negative 54. So essentially what we're saying is n1 is negative 3, and n2, number 2, is 18, because negative 3 times 18 is negative 54. Negative 3 plus 18 is 15. So then if you have these numbers, the next thing to do is then So you have x squared plus 15x minus 54. The next thing to do is then you can just keep your ax squared the way it is and then just say negative 3x. So what you're doing is you are dividing this, splitting 15x. Basically you're splitting 15x and just write it as negative 3x plus 18x, and then keep that 54. Right, then from here, easy. Then you find the common factor of here, can't find the common factor here. So the common factor here is, yes, x. Common factor here is x. So x squared divided by x is x. Negative 3x divided by x, that's 3. And then you find the common factor here, 18x minus 54. The common factor, remember, we've already identified the factors of 54, and 18 is one of those. So negative, so if you just say 18 as a common factor, 18x divided by x is x. Negative 54 divided by 18 is 3. Again, identify the common factor, which is x minus 3. So you have x minus 3. If you factor that out, x times x minus 3 divided by x minus 3, that is x. And 18 times x minus 3 divided by x minus 3, that is 18. Boom, that's your final answer. And the third thing is, after all of this, you're still getting 2 marks. So your 2 marks will come just for getting that 2 answers. The reason why it's just 2 marks is because you can actually do this using a calculator, but I'm going to show you the another video on how to actually calculate this with your calculator. It won't take this long. I promise you, take quicker than this. But let's continue to 1.1.3. Right, 1.1.3. So we're doing the same thing, y minus xy plus x minus 1. So here already you can see that there's a common factor here. We can actually factor that out. So what is the common factor there is y. So y divided by y is 1. Negative x, y divided by y is negative x. So you have x minus 1, right? And from here, you actually can factor out negative 1 or multiply by negative. You can multiply this whole thing by negative 1 or factor out negative 1. So if you multiply it or if you change this sign to be negative, essentially if you change the sign to be negative, it's going to be negative 1, of course, or just negative, and then your x is going to become positive, so it's going to be, sorry, your x is positive, it's going to become negative, so it's going to be negative x, and your negative y, or 1 is negative, so it's going to become positive 1. So if you're changing sign, that's what's going to happen. So this can be written as 1 minus x. This is negative 1 minus x. And then you find a common factor here is 1 minus x, and then you'll be left with 1 minus 1, right? Where is that 1 coming from? Remember, negative 1 minus x divided by 1 minus x is negative 1. So that's where this negative 1 is coming from. Boom, you get your answer, and this is 3 marks. And you have 1. Okay, great. So you have this for an answer, you have that, and you have this as well. 3 marks. Boom, 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 boom. So let me know if you have other questions on how to factorize expressions like this, but this is how you would do it. Boom. See you in this video. Don't forget, in this video we'll be doing 1.1, 1.2, where we'll be simplifying also the following expressions. It's getting interesting. See you in this video. Thank you for liking and subscribing, and thank you for commenting, and thank you for sharing. Boom.